everyone, welcome to another serving of Convention Tea. Today we're going to be talking about Los Angeles Comic Con 2025. Los Angeles Comic Con, we've been attending LA Comic Con since the beginning when it was called Kamikaze, back when Stan Lee had a backing with it. Oh boy, this was quite a year, and it's also very telling of what the future can lie for Los Angeles Comic Con. So, just in contrast, this is definitely different from San Diego Comic Con. San Diego Comic Con usually takes place during the summertime, always during the summertime. LA Comic Con is a fall time convention held in downtown LA, and you have a lot more celebrity interactions. There's a lot more like meet and greets with voice actors, a lot of photo opportunities with A-list celebrities from your childhood, especially if you are a millennial or a Gen Xer. It really caters to that audience. And let's check out LA Comic Con. But before we get started, just a little bit about us. If this is your first time checking out one of our podcasts, one of our recaps about conventions, I am the Wisteria Witch. I run Scarlet Rhapsody. Scarlet Rhapsody, we've been around since the early 2000s. I figured out this whole operation when I was just a teenage cringy otaku at Anime Expo 2000, and I wanted to write about my convention experiences, share photos, and tell everyone what the convention was like from my point of view. So I started out Scarlet Rhapsody, and then 20 years later, over 20 years later, I'm still doing this to this day. So I just like to cover events. I not to brag, but I do run like one of the largest archives of fandom history, and that's still active in telling stories from conventions. And the older I get, the more I try to do as much as I can, but age is also just creeping up with me. Because, like I said, this has been like an over 20 plus year operation, and I'm glad to be still doing it, and glad you're all still enjoying it. And more importantly, I feel the need to put this in every presentation that I do, given that AI is taking over in the most horrific kind of ways. So, just as a PSA, this whole presentation is not made by AI. It's made by human hands and human sweat and tears. And of course, with any of our panels, presentations, and anything else, we at Scarlet Rhapsody have a very strong stance against AI. Isn't that right, Craig Yamaguchi? All right, let's talk LA Comic Con 2025. So this was again, I've been attending since like its first inaugural year back when the convention was held in Artist Alley over at Kensha Hall. So I'm not a stranger of Kensha Hall being associated with the LA Comic Con space. A lot of folks been saying like, yeah, it's a lot like AX where they utilize Kensha Hall. But I will say it's definitely a bigger convention than the past couple of years. They really expanded. And what I find very interesting about LA Comic Con is they really try to cater to all fandoms. And by all fandoms, this year was the first year they introduced, I believe it was called like Akihabara District, which was catered towards otaku and weebs. This is like more of a Japanese entertainment, Japanese pop culture, retro gaming, anything that I would feel that would belong more at in an anime convention scene was over at Akiba Station, which was over in the West Hall. Now in South Hall, you had the lobby where you had all these top tier cosplayers posing around. You had the GWCs that were just taking photos. And then you also had like your massive dealer's hall. The dealer's hall looked like it was cut in half because I did notice a divider that's not usually not there. And it also had your main stage where you had a lot of your reunion type of presentations. I do admit I was kind of bummed out that I missed out on the Doctor Who one because Billie Piper was also a guest this year. And for those of you who don't know, Billie Piper, before she was Rose in Doctor Who, she was a British pop star. And if you recall, you can look this up because this was more, because I guess what happened was like she was a lot more popular as a pop star in Britain, but I think we only got one of her songs made it as a hit in the US in that early 2000s era. I Know That She Wants You. That was a bop back then. It's a bop now. Like, it's just my only regret was not checking out Billie Piper because Honey to the Bee, that was a fun album. Yay for obscure pop culture history. All right, so I just want to mention that we only did LA Comic Con for 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. We usually don't do Friday because Friday is a work day, and it's most of the events on Friday happen in the late afternoon, so it's kind of a pain in the butt to get to downtown LA on a Friday. So yeah, just Saturday and Sunday, which is I really feel is like just the 2 days you generally need. Of course, Saturday is going to be like the biggest day, but first, before we go forward, I also want to mention that you can also get 15% off your order over at Petals and Poisons. You can use my code Spectre15 to get 15% off. You can use the link in the description to check out Petals and Poisons. This is like one of my favorite gothic stores. There's a little tea house in Garden Grove called Burnt Umber, and they sell a lot of these gothic knickknacks. And they have necklaces, teapots, essential oils, really great stuff. So for spooky season, and if you celebrate spooky season all year long, highly recommend checking out Petals and Poison and to get 15% off your order. They even got some dresses on their website right now. I probably might think about getting one. All right. So for LACC 2025, always as a disclaimer, I always like to mention like what I've been involved with. So usually every year for LACC, I get my press media badge, and I also run at least one panel. This year, I was able to team up with the Academic Geek Association, where we presented on the Millennial Experience. I'll get more into that later. And and this is our second year uh, here with Cosplay Wrestling Federation at LA Comic Con. LA Comic Con was one of the first Comic Cons that CWF has been invited to perform at. It's always a crazy thing with CWF and Comic Cons. We're still getting our foot in the door. We're still trying to educate the pop culture masses of what Cosplay Wrestling Federation is all about. And we're very thankful for LA Comic Con and Comic Con Revolution to open their doors to us. And you can see here, this is a graphic that Trish and I just kind of co-collaborated on, and I wanted to get like our performers and our host on here just so y'all know what to expect. It was actually kind of funny because when I was advertising Cosplay Wrestling Federation at the Millennial Experience panel, I was I was like, yeah, like here at LA Comic Con, we have our Cosplay Wrestling Federation panel. Check it out at the exact same room. We're gonna have George Lucas, Raphael from Baldur's Gate, and me as Sailor Mars, and you better root for Sailor Mars. So with that said, there was this gentleman that came in the audience, like, yeah, you know who I want to see at Cosplay Wrestling Federation? I want to see Yahoo Buckaroo and Mad Max. I'm like, Yahoo Buckaroo, wasn't that like a board game back in the day? I know what Mad Max is because I finally watched like the second movie like a couple years ago, and of course Fury Road. But I'm like Yahoo Buckaroo. I'm like I remember those commercials when I was a kid. Like what? The guys are like, yeah, Yahoo Buckaroo is like my favorite character. It's like my favorite thing. Like, wow, that's obscure fandom. Anywho, so I always like to say like what I cosplayed as at LA Comic Con. So I wanted to keep it old school because I like to represent old school anime because that is my jam. So with that said, I cosplayed as Misato from Evangelion, and then I also cosplayed as Sailor Mars, mainly for Cosplay Wrestling Federation, and Mars is obviously like my favorite out of all the Sailor Senshi. I don't know, maybe I'll cosplay as her today. All right. Popular fandoms. I always like to say, talking about like what were the popular fandoms, what was well represented at the convention. So, autumn of 2025, we had a lot of Demon Slayer cosplayers. And of course, the reason for this being is the Demon Slayer movie that had come out recently, that is making gangbusters at the box office. I'm very happy for Demon Slayer to be making so much money and really like paving the way for anime movies and just anime just being a despite being a foreign medium is so beloved by all. So I'm very happy that it's doing well in theaters. I didn't cosplay when I saw Demon Slayer. I just wore like my Wisteria varsity jacket, and I just had a good time. If I did cosplay, I probably would have gone as Shinobu. We also had K-pop Demon Hunters. Speaking of demons, I love this family's group because it had them like in the relaxy time outfits. I also love how there's Zoe got like the bun things on the towels done. I know there's like a methodology how to do that. I'm like, I kind of wish I had the patience to do the bun things on the towel. And then I love how the dad here is Bobby. I don't know, it's just so wholesome. It's so adorable. I actually do have a K-pop Demon Hunters cosplay on the way. I'm so excited. Just really depends when it gets here. So, very excited to be cosplaying from K-pop Demon Hunters. I won't say which character. Who knows? I could be Derpy. I could be the tiger in a uh, in a onesie. And then we also had Baldur's Gate. This is my buddy Danny, whom I met back in 2004 at Tales of Anime. My story here with Danny is I always believe that cosplayers always uplift each other, even if you're strangers. So, our encounter in a bathroom at Tales of Anime 2004, I needed help like combing like this really raggedy Party City white long white hair wig for Integra from Helsing, and Danny's like, "Oh, I got you. Like I can even solve problems with even the most rattiest of Party City wigs." So that's my buddy Danny. We've been friends since that encounter in the bathroom. Surprise fandoms you don't expect to see at Comic Con. So I was very happy to see like Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band van. Uh, Probably a popular opinion, or probably a lukewarm opinion. It is my favorite album by the Beatles. It is my favorite era of the Beatles. I know like there's a warring faction between like, oh, we like drugged out Abbey Road White Album Beatles, and there's like another faction like, no, we could like boy band Beatles. Like both points are valid, but I like my funky, weird, Technicolor experimental Beatles. Strawberry Fields Forever. And then we also have Star Blazers or Battleship Yamamoto. I was very surprised to see someone cosplaying from this anime, which maybe I will see one cosplayer from this franchise at like a larger anime con. Like I remember the last time I saw someone cosplaying from the series was perhaps Otakon back in 2022. But like yeah, like it's just so surprising to me to see like, oh yeah, Star Blazers cosplayers in like 2025. I know I mixed up the American and the Japanese titles. I'm an elder millennial that this was not part of my childhood, but I'm actually curious to check out the brand new the reboot series because I've heard nothing but good things about it. And then we have Carlotta from Phantom the Opera, and when I approach her, like, oh my god, your costume is Carlotta, right at the start of the Hannibal sequence. She's like, oh my god, someone actually knows my name. I'm like, yeah, been a fan girl since like high school. I mean, I want to bring back my Christine Daae cosplay, and it's like I don't know, maybe for Emerald City Comic Con, maybe I'll do a Phantom the Opera cosplay. Maybe I'll do Christine in a dressing gown outfit. It seems fairly easy peasy, just a white bridal satin, just ruffle it up. But I also like her wishing you're somehow here again outfit. All I ask of you is can be ruffle hell. I mean, just look at that dress. All right, before we move on, just want to give a shout out to my idol group, Angel Hearts. Angel Hearts, we've been around since the early 2000s. Angel Hearts, we are idols that specialize in J-pop, para para, and all the things associated with anything sparkly and pink. We are angels that have descended from the heavens here to have you listen to our song, Fly, Angels Fly. I hope I did a good promotion key. So check us out, Angel Hearts Idols, and yeah, we hope to see you at one of our performances. All right, getting there. So, getting to LA Comic Con on Saturday, it's a madhouse. I just want to like just leave it out there. If you're planning to drive up, if you're planning to commute to LA Comic Con, I always advise people get there early, or get there, or be ready to pay a massive parking prices. Like if you wanted to park right across the street, it was like $50. If you want to park over at LA Live where we parked, it's going to be about $40. So I always recommend people carpool, split it up with friends. And yeah, that's just like one of my best advice with getting to LA Comic Con on Saturday, because Saturday is it's a madhouse, and just be sure to plan, be sure to prep. Um, my friends, when they went in line for registration to pick up their badges, it was just like easy in and out. My friends and I, because we had press and industry badges, we just went over to South Hall, just easy peasy to pick it up, just show ID, and they'll have everything ready for you. Because I was also administrating Cosplay Wrestling Federation, my team for Cosplay Wrestling Federation didn't have a problem picking up badges over in South Hall. Easy peasy for them as well. And another thing I wanted to mention about LA Comic Con is we were sharing space with a concert. And over at the Staples Center, I refuse to call it what its real name is now. Whatever. It's still Staples Center to me. They were have I okay. So the story goes is we were coming out of LA Live and we see a line, and it looks kind of fandomy, but not like there was like an era of fandom culture there, but I couldn't tell what it was. It was mostly women. They were all dressed up, some like in like very flowy outfits. They had ribbons. Like, okay, yeah, what's going on here? Is it like a Sunday concert on a Saturday? What's going on? It had like Sunday vibes with a touch of goth. Sunday clothes. So like, put on your Sunday clothes when you feel down and out. And then because like I was still a little bit sleepy and I couldn't see the name of the artist from up close, I'm like, Luffy concert. There's a One Piece concert. I'm like, that's all I could make out from like the logo, like Luffy concert. And of course, because my friends and I are weebs, we had the One Piece opening things theme stuck in our heads, and we were singing it on the way to registration. And it was not until we were exiting, I when I ran into Staples Center security, like, yeah, is there a game going on tonight? I heard Sparks playing against. Like, no, it's a La Fay concert. Like, oh, I've never heard of La Fay. And then later that night, I actually started listening to La Fay. It's like, oh yeah, I kind of dig her vibe. I can get behind this. So yeah, because I misread it as Luffy and was sharing space with LA Comic Con, I guess I'm a Lafe fan now. No, seriously, I like her music. If you just like something in the background that's very pleasant to listen to, just need some relaxy tunes where you can light up a candle, curl up with a book, especially rainy day music. Oh my God, Lafe is like the perfect rainy day music. But anyway, let's get back to LA Comic Con before I turn this into a girly pop presentation and girly pop podcast. All right, so Saturday we are here at LA Comic Con. This is what our lobby looks like as we enter in. And of course, I got there about 10:30, and there was a D&D panel, and it consisted of actors and writers that were talking about integrating D&D character creation and D&D storytelling within your craft. A majority of the panelists were actors. I wanted to hear more from writers, like how they integrated their love of D&D, starting to being having their start in D&D to integrate that into their writing. But we were talking about auditions, on like how to create a character, D&D style when you're like reading lines, when you're reading sides, when you're trying to um, pass an audition. So it was really interesting just getting this insight from these actors and writers. I just wish we kind of heard more from writers, because as a writer, I would like to have heard from like, okay, are your world building techniques? How do you integrate that from being a DM? How do you integrate that from being a player who has to create this character and you're also creating their backstory? Like, yeah, like how does that like show in your writing? I kind of want to see more of that, but I still thought it was a very insightful panel. A really good, strong start to my Saturday at LA Comic Con. There were some really good panels at this convention. And of course, I had to dive into the dealer's room. So this is our vendor hall here. I love this booth because it has serapes with fandom characters here. I actually saw them at Comic Con Revolution, and they actually did have a Los Caballeros del Zodiaco poncho. So I got that for a friend of mine who's a huge fan of Los Caballeros del Zodiaco, and he wasn't displaying Saint Seiya initially, but I just went in and asked, like, hey, do you have Los Caballeros del Zodiaco? And they did. Another thing I want to highlight is Saturday had a lot of the Labubu and Pop Mart blind boxes. Well, not just Saturday, but the whole weekend. The vendor hall, like, you could not walk past two booths and then see like a Labubu or a Pop Mart themed booth. I mean, I won't yuck anyone's yum. Like, if you love Labubus, you love collecting, because part of the spirit of Comic Cons is the collector's aspect of it. I get why people like it. It's cute, it's customizable, you have that personalization kind of aspect to it. But I was just like noticing, like, yeah, there's a lot of these Labubu booths. But you kind of, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, like, would you rather see a flood of Funko Pops, or would you rather see a flood of Labubus? Because part of the Labubu collector culture that I do like is the customization and seeing people sell different outfits for your Labubu. So like I just kind of like, for example, like these R2 units. I thought this was really cute. Again, I'm not really into Pop Mart blind boxes. I can't afford that right now in this economy. No. So I also like that Universal Studios Hollywood. They had a booth there. They were showing off the new ride vehicles for the Fast and Furious ride um, over that's gonna be opening up soon. I actually did see the track layout and like the construction for it last Thursday when I was there for Halloween Horror Nights. And they're like, yeah, these ride vehicles look pretty cool. Seeing that they seat like four people, um, like it makes me wonder like if it's gonna be like a huge like line of them like as they do with most coasters, or it's gonna be like single vehicle. I think it's just gonna be like a line of them because anytime I look at a ride vehicle and there's like not a lot of seats there, like okay, what's the load time gonna be like? All right. So as Saturday progressed, more and more people showed up at LA Comic Con. I love the shot, by the way, of the convention. And then I went over to the Akiba area, Akiba Square, Akiba Station, whatever it's called, Akiba something or other. And I went to go check out they had like a main stage where you had like voice actors, talent that would fit in with Akiba Station. So they had like a Seiyu panel. So, one of the names here that I recognize is Yoriko Yamaguchi. She's the voice actress for Ritsuko. It just happened to be that I was cosplaying as Misato. I had a second row in the audience, and I just thought it was very insightful of them just talking about their careers, where they got started, and just being surprised and their reaction to their and reception and reaction just being at a Western convention, especially when it's not in a typical like anime space like an anime expo or otakon. It's just so surreal just seeing like a Seiyu panel at a Western convention. Like Akiba Station was like its own like mini anime convention. I also wanted to highlight some of our Saturday cosplayers. So I had a friend who cosplays from the Amazing Digital Circus. Please correct me in the comments if I got that wrong. I've heard good things about it. The company that's making the Amazing Digital Circus has been producing a lot of animation that's beloved by a lot of Gen Z folks out there. And of course, I saw Dr. Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror just kind of like hanging out in the artist alley. And of course, my buddy and we just had to sing the penis to vagina song. All right, thank you so much, Komi. I appreciate being corrected. Never actually seen it, but I've heard good things. Maybe I'll watch it one day. I kind of feel like I need to be in the right mentality. And then we also have someone cosplaying from Sinners. I still need to see Sinners. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I have it on HBO Max. It's on my favorites. It's on my queue. Maybe one day I'll watch it. I've heard good things. Yeah, and this was just kind of like the aesthetic and just the feel of Akiba Station. Again, this was held over in South Hall. You had like a lot of dealers selling anime art. You had like a smaller artist alley up in here, and then you also had like Tamashi Nations selling figures. You had like this gallery of common writer, this and that. So I felt it was like a celebration of all things Japanese pop culture, and it was like kind of like its own convention within the convention. Because LA Comic Con, they also had like a mini horror section in um in the middle of the convention center. I always call it Lounge 21 because that's where Lounge 21 is for Anime Expo. But for if those of you who are not familiar with Anime Expo and its layout, it's like in that bridge area that connects South Hall and West Hall. I didn't have a chance to check out the horror stuff because they have like its own horror mage. So, um, I just didn't have time because I was really busy with Cosplay Wrestling Federation. And usually Saturday is just my day to just explore wherever. And there were a lot of good panels on Saturday that I wanted to check out. Also, we also had the Go Kaiser panel. I love how they got they still, oh wait, this is not the Go Kaiser image. There's the Kaiser image. So this is like the cast of Go Kaiser, three out of the main five, or main six if you count the Gold Ranger. So here, um, excuse me. So I kind of felt like the Gokaiger cast got shafted, it made me really sad. I mean, were telling like behind the scenes stories. Like they were talking about a time when the whole cast got sick, and like one cast member got sick, and the whole like cast ended up just being hospitalized. And luckily, it was not too serious. And there was another one where the person who ended up playing the Red Ranger, Captain Marvelous, he was actually nice enough to show folks who were auditioning for Gokaiger where the bathroom was. And after that experience, like one of the actors here was like, "Yeah, that's the definition of the Red Ranger. Always helping out people, always looking out for people." But like I said, I felt like they got shafted because the panel before them ran a little bit longer, so we only had 15 minutes with the Gokaiger cast when the schedule had them at half an hour. I'm still very happy I was able to get a sit up front and center to watch them. But again, it was like 15 minutes. I kind of felt like we could have got so much more. And I just also love how these folks here, how the Gokaiger actors here are also looking at my camera too. I watched Gokaiger like, wow, over 10 years ago when I was in Boston. It was like my comfort series. If you've never seen the original, highly recommend checking out the original. It's so much fun. And I just love this cast. Because I remember I was just like looking back at like my yeah, I was looking back at like a lot of my photos and screenshots like from the earlier episodes, like how the five of them were just trying to like taunt this stray cat. I just love how dorky like the cast can get. It's like not your typical like Super Sentai because it's Super Sentai All Stars. It's again, it's a lot of fun. Highly recommend if you're a fan of Super Sentai and or Power Rangers. I also love that Maru-chan was like had a booth here at South Hall. Maru-chan, they've been fueling cheap ass weebs for every single anime convention because how many of you had to get like Maruchan ramen from the grocery store, bring it to a convention, and find a way to heat up water in the coffee container? That was my college days. Like I said, I went to a couple panels on Saturday. One of them was the K-pop Demon Hunters panel, and this was a fan panel. It wasn't done officially by Sony or Netflix. It was just about a bunch of fans who just decided to get together to like, hey, let's run a panel. And we had two cosplayers and we had two people who did Walla Walla or background voice work for K-pop Demon Hunters. And these two voice actors. One of them is a college professor at USC, teaching feminism, Asian American studies, and the other voice actress actually had a show on Nickelodeon, and we were just kind of like just talking back and forth about just girly pop, Asian representation, and was hoping to like hear more from them from that side of it. But you know what? It still was like a fun panel. We had a sing along to Golden, Takedown. We had a cosplay runway, and like over half the crowd here was cosplaying from K-pop Demon Hunters. And like you just had like all these like people just walking up and down like the center aisle. It was really hard to see because like there was just so many people here. And even I tried to get a friend of mine to also join me for K-pop Demon Hunters, and he's like, "Yeah, panel's full." But it was such a fun panel. I love the vibes, and I'm really looking forward to cosplaying from K-pop Demon Hunters. I also checked out the old school anime panel 101, and this is run by Gen Z folks, and there were us in the audience who were just trying to help them out because there were some series that they weren't too familiar with. So a few of us were just kind of like, yeah, City Hunter, like, yeah, it's about a guy who can't keep his wood in his pants, and he's a cop. It was basically the best way I could describe it is explain an old school title very badly, but you're not wrong. Like Dirty Pair, space lesbians, space lesbians who say that trans rights are a thing. But yeah, I thought this was a very interesting community panel in the sense that like us in the audience were helping out the panelists like figure out like okay, what is Lupin the Third all about? Um what is the Magic Knight Rayearth all about? I thought that was just kind of cool. Like yeah, we're helping you guys out understand what we know and share our deep lore with you guys. Also, my buddy here, Geki, was running the Mecha panel, and this was actually pretty fun. So he was running History of Giant Robots, and basically he was playing video clips of various giant robot anime. He covered it from the beginning to present day, present time. There we had some conversations about GQucks. Um, so yeah, it's just supporting my buddy here, just talking about giant robot anime. Also, we have the acoustic section of LA Comic Con. This is my buddy Dave here, cosplaying as Schroeder, playing music on the world's tiniest piano. And also, I just want to highlight a couple. Wait, this is not okay. Anyway, so that wraps it up for Saturday. So let's go on to Sunday. But before we go forward, Convention Tea is brought to you by Yemax Sweaters. Yemax Sweaters is one of my favorite companies that sells affordable, cozy clothing. Cuffing season is upon us, so we gotta stay warm. So we got cardigans, cozy clothes that you can wear around the house, loungewear, cardigans. Highly recommend. You can use my code YEMAC Dame Asbal to get 40% off your total purchase at yemacsweater.com. All right, Sunday, it was a much lighter day. And Sunday, I would consider like my busy day because I was running two panels, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So this is just kind of like the crowd on Sunday, just kind of like it's just average, just what it looked like. If you look closely, you can spot Muzan from Demon Slayer. I had like Michael Jackson music stuck in my head because of Demon Slayer reasons. Here we have folks cosplaying from SpongeBob. And of course, just some Sunday highlights. The K-pop Demon Hunters cosplay game was going strong. I also appreciated seeing someone cosplaying from The Hangover. And then I have my buddy here, Robbie, cosplaying as Raphael from Baldur's Gate 3. There's a huge presence of Baldur's Gate fandom uh, at LA Comic Con, mainly because we had the full Baldur's Gate 3 cast. And I know my friend here spent a pretty penny on like just getting all the signatures, voice recordings, selfies with the cast of Baldur's Gate 3. And what I'm told, like, everyone had a great time when it came to meeting with the cast. Of course, just a couple more highlights from Sunday. We got Snoopy, we got the Scroll Squad, we got Princess Mononoke. I believe that's Princess Mononoke, but correct me if I'm wrong. Also, I love this Mortal Kombat group here. I actually ran into my buddy London, and we were just kind of like just geeking out over Katana because was telling my buddy London, like, yeah, I have a Katana cosplay that I started during lockdown. It's classic Katana. I even had the fan. Like, I just haven't really got started on it. Well, I actually do have some started. I just haven't quite finished it. Gotta lose some weight in the gut. Also, Artist Alley, I know this was a controversial decision that people were debating about whether or not it should be in Kensha Hall. As an Anime Expo attendee, like I'm used to Artist Alley being in Kensha Hall, but I could only stay there for like just so long. I actually had friends who did make their money back with their table because LA Comic Con is one of the more affordable places to sell art. I actually did see an author that I very much admire. He writes a lot of the making of Back to the Future, and I got him finally got the chance to get the making of the Back to the Future musical signed by him. And we were just talking about writing. We were talking about theater. It was actually really fun just getting to know him and just also just seeing his various Back to the Future merch and just talking about like memories on set. And it just made me happy just to talk to someone who was involved in the production of Back to the Future. And that was like one of my favorite movies. Also, in this artist alley, you can also meet comic book artists, comic book writers. A friend of mine also was able to get a lot of signatures and also spend a pretty penny down here, like just getting all the autographs from his favorites down here. I also saw like a lot of authors in addition to the guy who wrote the Back to the Future making of books. They were also advertising Enchanticon. I actually did, not Enchanticon, my bad. Enchanted Realms the Enchanted Realms Fair, which is like an outdoor book convention meets Ren Fair over in LA. I actually did a blog post about it. You can read more about that on my blog. It's think of Scholastic Book Fair meets a Ren Fair. A lot of fun. And here's just a just as a quick photo from the Millennial Experience panel. So basically, it's just a bunch of us elder millennials just talking about our experience with anime. So basically, we are just talking about the lessons learned from anime, just kind of like our experience, just kind of surviving trauma, surviving traumatic events, living through some of the darkest times in history, and being and having like certain anime characters, themes in anime resonate with us very highly. I actually talked about Serial Experiments Lane and the Dark Web. Serial Experiments Lane came out in the late 90s, and a lot of the themes in Lane weren't really quite understood back then. But if you go back and watch Lane right now, you can understand the themes of cyberbullying, the blur between reality and what's on the web, the blur between what does it mean to be um, what does it mean to be perpetually online, and what does it mean to live in the real world as you're perpetually online. It's definitely something I want to do research on. Hopefully, knock on wood, I will be able to have a panel like that ready for Anime Expo to talk about the dark web and serial experiments lane. But we did take video of this presentation, and I was also very happy to talk about Utena, themes of revolutionizing the world, because I thought this was a very insightful panel. Hopefully, more conventions will also accept this panel as part of their programming, because, like, hey, let's talk about cerebral issues, real life issues, and anime at the same time. I also snuck into like the last part of the Spider-Man writers panel. This was happening right before our panel, and they were kind of going a little bit overtime because we also had to set up a little bit for Cosplay Wrestling Federation. And here we have Cosplay Wrestling Federation. I was taking some photos from the back while trying to make sure the show that we had a show to begin with. We had some behind the scenes kind of snafus that were just out of our control, but we had to roll with what we had because at the end of the day, the show must go on. Things happen. We just have to like just make sure the audience has a show on there. So I got Ian here cosplaying as Stalker from G Gundam, trying to entertain the crowd before we could get our technological equipment right up here. It was a smaller show. We had about six competitors: myself as Sailor Mars, Raphael from Baldur's Gate, John Wick, George Lucas, excuse me, and others. Among the others is we also have, oh my goodness, we had, oh my god, Carl Weezer from Jimmy Neutron. Sorry, Jimmy Neutron wasn't really part of my childhood, but seeing like an incel-ish type boy with his with a waifu pillow of the main character's mom, I think that's just funny to begin with. He ended up winning the title, and I thought that was he was a crowd favorite. Even like after show, people were coming up to him for photos, and he was even telling me like he can't like walk 5 steps without getting his photo taken. But like I had a great time with the show. I think we did a good job with what we had to work with. I was very happy to see George Lucas go up against um, Carl Weezer over here. I was actually really happy to see George Lucas make the finals because Eric, who plays George Lucas, put a lot of work and a lot of effort into really getting George Lucas down to the voice. So like I'm just very happy with just how it turned out. We had a smaller audience, being that it's Sunday, and the funny part is like we were also just working with the time as well, but we found out like after our presentation the next panel never even showed up. Like, oh, we could have gone there for a little bit longer, but I think when you have like a small group of contestants, I think an hour show suffices. Okay, also on Sunday I just did one less round in the dealer's hall, just to just check out like what else is here, and just kind of sure just browse around. Of course, I always come back with chocolate from Whimsy. I usually come back with a few books with me. And of course, like I have to just share this photo of Ensaja because this speaks to my millennial heart. And before we wrap things up, I also wanted to just promote my book, The Fangirl Diaries. This is my my debut book about anime, conventions, cosplay, and girlhood in an era before streaming and in an era before social media. Link in description if you want to read more about a time when cosplay was still niche, But Hot Topic was taking notice and taking attention. A time when anime, you had to, if you wanted to watch anime, you had to find a stranger online to get VHS tapes from. But also at the same time, we were getting this channel called Toonami. So this is basically my experience with that transition with anime becoming a niche, becoming a niche hobby for Gen Xers to becoming like the hobby for millennials. So order your copy today, link in description. All right, my final thoughts on LA Comic Con. I always enjoy LA Comic Con. It's never a bad time. I always like browsing through the dealer's hall. Usually, I don't do the celebrity photo ops. They're usually out of my price range, especially in this economy. The last time I ever got a celebrity photo op was with John Barrowman back at Long Beach Comic Con, back when that was a thing. But if there was a celebrity that I could get a photo op with, if I had the money at the time, probably would have gone with not Billie Eilish, sorry, Billie Piper, and I probably would have got like a CD, have her sign a CD of Honey to the Bee. My other final thoughts about this convention is, like I mentioned before, I'm very much anti AI in creative spaces. It just boggled me that we had like this AI Stanley where if you paid $20, you could interact with the AI Stanley hologram. Like, okay, this seems odd. Even in death, people are still milking him for what he's worth. I also noticed that as I was going through both the vendor hall and Artist Alley, that I spotted some AI art. It was like, okay, I have to question if it was AI art, and I actually did have a few friends of mine confirm that it's AI art. Obviously, if you have a Stan Lee hologram, of course you're not gonna have an anti AI policy, because there was this one author. I was like looking at the artwork, and the aesthetic looked very similar to a similar AI trend I saw over the summer, and I'm like, no, we can't do this. Like, we can't be selling AI art, and it just really boggles my mind that this is allowed in creative spaces. So again, I hope that one day that all conventions that celebrate creativity in the arts, whether you're anime, whether you're pop culture, video games, and so forth, that there is an anti AI policy, because this hurts artists, this hurts the people that you're very much catering to, because there is a very loud voice out there against AI. I like the program lineup this year. I did question, of course, it's hard for programming to vet like every single panel and if every person is qualified. But there was a toxic fandom panel, and I saw one of the names that was listed on there, and someone on there, I won't go into details, but I thought they were a very questionable person to have on that panel. Long story short, this was a person that made me want to quit the Star Wars fandom. So yeah, kind of just sort of just question just some of the people who are running panels. But overall, I did like the D&D panel that I went to earlier in the day. I did like the K-pop Demon Hunters fan panel. Because panels are decided upon early on, they're confirmed earlier on. I don't think programming knew that how big it was gonna be, because we definitely need a bigger room for K-pop Demon Hunters. We need that 403 AB room for K-pop Demon Hunters. Should we continue that again? Because I would love to have another K-pop Demon Hunter sing along. And maybe next year LA Comic Con can also get the voice actresses for K-pop Demon Hunters. I don't really do like a lot of the after parties. My idea of an after party is just having dinner with friends at Coco Ichibanya, just having some comfort food with just a small group of friends. Yeah, because LA Comic Con, it goes from 10 a.m. to about 6 p.m. So I usually just kind of like, okay, once I'm done with the day, just go home, just grab a bite to eat with friends. Overall, I like the vibes. I can't really think of anything else I had any major issues with. I know like there's a lot of discussion that LA Comic Con has an identity crisis, but what I think LA Comic Con is trying to do, I think they're just trying to test the waters if they want to have like a splinter con. Like maybe if Akiba Station does well, maybe we'll do LA Comic Con presents Akiba Station Con or something. Or the other way to look at it is LA Comic Con is not only a Comic Con, but here check out just some other events events within our convention, like their horror section, their Occupus Station con, and you can also do celebrity photo ops, which I think if you're a family and this is like your one con during a year, if this is like the one big thing that you do, at least you kind of get a sample platter of like what other things that people in your family might like if you have like kids who might be into anime and the parents are like, okay, yeah, we're more into like Marvel, we're more into DC, the Doctor Who type thing. So I think the model, I think I don't really quite have an issue with it, but I can see what people are saying when you're looking at Artist Alley and people are like, oh, what should we cater to? Should we cater to this audience? Should we cater to that audience? But I think that those are very valid points to raise. But I do like the sample platter style that LA Comic Con is adapting because it shows that they know what's popular, what's good in the world right now in terms of pop culture consumption. And right now, definitely anime is still riding high, especially with those Demon Slayer numbers. Okay, thank you so much again for checking out another edition of Convention Tea. This is just a skinny on LA Comic Con 2025. Well, will we be back? Yeah, we're usually back every year. It's local. We normally get our press badges. We like covering this convention. The press department, their programming department, has been nothing but kind and professional to us. And I always just like seeing different cosplays, interacting with different fandoms, interacting with people that I never thought I would interact with, like that gentleman from Back to the Future. I was just very happy to just talk to someone who was very involved in behind the scenes of one of my favorite movies. And also just seeing my friends very happy with the fandoms that they're interacting with. Like, I've had friends who, again, flew in from the Bay Area just for Baldur's Gate 3. And the cast for Baldur's Gate 3, they were just up at Emerald City Comic Con earlier in the year. And just for them to have that experience, to see their favorite voice actors, that makes me happy that they're having a great time. Who knows, maybe next year LA Comic Con might surprise me and maybe I'll do a photo op type thing next year. We'll see. And with that said, thank you so much for checking us out here at Convention Tea with LA Comic Con. We got a couple of conventions on the horizon. We got KumoriCon and we also got Geek Girl Convention. And I will have those editions of Convention Tea sometime in mid November as we will be in the Pacific Northwest for quite some time. With that said, thank you again and we'll see you at the con.